Let's talk about the 5 development phases as described by Bruce Tuckman. Now, Bruce Tuckman was doing us justice as a psychologist, as project managers, as team leaders, to actually understand the psychology of our teams that they go through as soon as we establish the team. Now, we're going to discuss the transitions that are 5 development phases that the team transitions through. This can be more applicable in a project environment matrix of a company, which actually moves from project to project. And also, it can be very applicable to the systems which by the company itself is working from maintenance to maintenance. And in many cases, this can form because they get to work with different team members, and at times you get to find that as a project manager or as a team leader, you are having to have a different team that you're working with specifically for a project. This can happen in construction, this can happen in IT infrastructure, this can also happen when it comes to different PMO projects as well. But without further detailing of which spheres it actually happens on, this is a common thing because it's about human beings than it is about the sector. That's why you get to also find us that we're going to touch base also on the military basis, which is also part of how this part gets to be crucial on. Now, before the end of this video, you will have the understanding of how to maneuver through all these stages as a team leader. And the main thing that we're going to emphasize first is what they're going through in these transitions. Because if you don't understand what your team is going through, how else will you be able to have a better strategy of managing the team towards the results that you initially want? I'm Brenda Matada, PMP Certified Project Manager. Let's talk about these stages first on what are they and what does the team experience. You're going to have the 5 stages. The first one is the forming stage. Within the forming stage, your team is dealing with the psychological impact, and it's a bit of, I can say, it's not really a psychological impact in a bad way. They're impacted by the love of getting to be part of this team. They are all feeling enthusiastic because, well, I made it to the team. And this team is going to be having a specific scope that they're going to be managing. I'm very happy to be part of this team. That is the forming stage. Most of the team members are celebrating being part of the team. Everybody's looking into, I'm going to bring into the team, and I know what I'm going to bring in the table, and these are my values that I'm going to bring in. Well, I'm Dana Matada, PMP Certified Project Manager. I'm going to bring in my operations experience, project management experience, and process integration experiences. That is, now I'm in the forming zone. I'm all about, it's like I'm warming up on the touch line to say I'm coming in. Now, on the storming phase, this is when now a lot of managers can get to lose the crucial team members if they don't understand that this is part of the psychological transition. On the storming zone, this is when you're going to have a lot of your team members having the issue with each other in terms of, well, I'm doing a Matada, PMP Certified Project Manager, and I'm trying to play on the ego part in that transition of this phase. On the storming phase, everybody's bringing in that ego part. The other guy will say, you know what? I'm the risk management specialist. And I've worked in projects with Shell in Netherlands. I've worked with a lot of companies in San Francisco here. I've worked with a lot of company in China as well, helping them with building the social networks such as TikTok. Now it's all about rubbing it on each other and at the expense of taking each other down, like having to be seen as the first among the equal. That is this part of storming. It becomes crucial that every team member wants to be seen as first among the equal. Now you move further to that development phase and move into the norming stage. And when you get to the norming stage, this is when now the team is like, you know what, I'm done. I'm tired of being a project manager, but I actually need to work with this guy in risk, this guy in web development. I think he can bring out the best in us, and I can manage to work with him as part of the team, and we can do well together. That is when now we're starting to see how each of us can actually fit into the role. We're getting to the team, we're having the big stars. Now we get to say, oh, actually, I don't need to bother about this left back. I'm actually playing in the front. I'm actually going to contribute more in the front than having to compete with the left back to say that he can't actually make more of chances in terms of scoring goals and stuff like that. Now we're getting to understand our place. When we move to the performing stage, this is a very dangerous stage, as Jim Rohn actually says it. He says, if somebody is a fool and you motivate that fool, you got a motivated fool, which is now again a dangerous phase, because that person is going to feel like I can walk on water and all that particular things, because the morale is very high on the performing stage. And I'm going to tell you what to do as a manager on that zone as well. But on this zone of performing, you now have the team that is high on morale. Team is eager to push, get the goals, get to win. That is a very good part in terms of the psychological and the mindset of the team in this stage. They've already seen that together they can do better, and they're doing better in this stage. And this is what you also need to have earlier. Now moving on into the other stage, which is very deadly. It's when they say you are getting to see the end of the road. Now your team is having the psychological issue, because now they're getting to see the end of the road coming in the eyes. They've got letters to say you're going home in the next 2-3 weeks. Now you have been having this glory and the spark of moving in with the team and pushing in together, and you're starting to even get along together to say, you know what, in the storming stage, I actually undermined your value because I was just clouded by seeing my ego and trying to validate my presence. But you actually came through, and they're starting to even understand each other on the personal stage, but now they are journeying, whereby now we're coming to the end of the phase or the end of the project, and now everybody is going home after that. Now the mind is now preparing to live in that state already. This is where now you are having to see a lot of people getting to the slight depression. Some of them, they're having a positive depression in this zone, because now they're starting to think, I've been so much in this hype and force and doing well. Now I need to be going home to be doing nothing. I'm going to miss this team. I'm going to be going home, missing my routine in the war, whereby I was waking up at 4, we were getting to the field, preparing ourselves and preparing our group and going out there and fight. I was in that spirit of the camp and fighting every day in the morning. But now you are going home, whereby at 4 o'clock it's going to be normal. The neighbor is just taking out the trash bin, maybe at 6, and everybody's living in the peaceful zone compared to what we're going through. And that takes a bit of you to feel like you are now at the point of being useless, or the part whereby you're not in your zone. You feel like you miss that fire within you. That's what Mike Tyson also talks about, that at this age he actually missed that, that beast that comes from within when he was in the ring, because now he feels like he's more calm than what he was when he was getting to the ring and active in his prime. So these are some of the positive depressions, because it's a positive because it's coming out from your best. It's not coming because you're feeling that you're useless or you have forever been useless. It's coming out because you feel like now I'm going to be doing less than what I actually feel live to do. And most of the projects, especially those that are actually record breaking, they get to have a lot of people that after a reach, they get to feel like, I miss that part. I miss that me. So this is what happens during the ad joining part. People are parting ways, and you are somehow missing some of the values within the team. Now, let's go now backwards again to the stages. What are we going to address now? Let's address what do we need to do now that everybody's feeling that way. I'm sure now you started to catch the feeling of feeling like you are on a downhill, because I was talking about adjourning. Sorry if you actually made you feel the feeling of adjourning, because this video is not adjourning yet. I'm not adjourning with you, because we need to start now speaking about what we need to do to these phases. As a team leader, as a project manager, as a strategic planner, as a PMO coach, this is what you need to do to prepare your leaders, and this is what you need to do to prepare your team through these transitions. In the forming stage, everybody is determined to come up. They're all happy and excited to come and be part of the team, as I said initially. Now, in this part, what you need to do as a leader is to set specific goals and tasks for the team members. That will drive the team from the enthusiasm of feeling like I made it here to start doing the actual work of being here. There's a term that they normally say that you mustn't get caught up celebrating the previous wins and all that. But this is the part whereby you're trying to get the team to not celebrate being here as making it to the team, but to now walk the journey of being in the team. You give them tasks, you give them specific measurable goals, and now you start to move into the part of execution. Now, when you get to the storming part, this is the storm. Forming, it feels like forming indeed. Now, the storming part, this is when now it's storming indeed, whereby we actually make a storm out of a teacup. Everything can get to a storm. I can be saying that having this Excel sheet, I've been working on it, developing the microns and doing it to the advanced level for the past 12 years, and somebody now gets offended because I just said that. And that is when now you need to manage as a team member to say, you know what, I actually brought that guy for that particular part of Excel. I brought that guy because of how he's been programming for that particular 15 years. But now you need to be bringing that together with the team and say, you know what, my management here now, this is what you're going to do to yourself, and trying to get your mindset right. You need to come up as bigger and open the platform for the team. This is where now you can encourage the team to actually be open up for suggestion, and in many cases you'll feel that some of the team members are actually in a resistant mode to even open up. So now you're going to take some of the project methodologies from Scrum and take these particular big questions to say, what are we going to do today, and what did you do yesterday, and actually what are the current issues that we're facing. So you start to now drive the team into answering these questions whereby now they are starting to feel orientated to actually give the answers and give the input in relation to the pattern that you're actually gaining information, and you're actually giving them the validation of each other. They get to see that this one is important with this part, this one is important with this part. Now when you move to norming, you're gonna now start to get your team into understanding the RASI chart, whereby now that RASI metrics come handy. The people who are responsible for a particular task, they must take their responsibility. Those who are accountable must take that. Those who need to be consulted, those who need to be informed, it must be clear now in the norming stage, because now you are trying to build up your team with a clear understanding of what do I bring in this table. And now what you need to do as well is to actually monitor the contributions. The reason why you need to emphasize the matrix itself, the RASI, is because you need to monitor it. But now how can you monitor it if you don't actually emphasize the people's roles? So that becomes important on that particular zone. When you move to performing, as I said, that you don't want a motivated fool who's going to try to walk on water and risk everything and drown and cause the project to collapse because of getting to risks that are not necessary. You need now to get the team in the direction of purpose. You need to make sure that your vigilance in steering the ship is at par. You need to make sure that that energy is coming. You need to make sure that you drive it to the cause of the project, which is the main goal of the project. So that becomes your main goal for that particular part. When you move to the journey part, instead of being only sympathetic and empathetic, whatever that can be, that you're sharing your emotions around the team, don't take them down to that spiral of feelings and losing focus. Instead, focus on bringing the team, draw down the task to say, guys, when we're in planning phase on the initial parts, when we're in the execution phase, what did you learn on this part? When you were partnered with this particular guy, I know that initially you didn't like him and all that. You had your conflicts here and there. You didn't understand each other's mind, the way somebody thinks and how they address their thinking. Now, what did you learn? Then they can walk you through all the steps to say, in this part, we learned this. In risk, the planning of the risk itself and the mitigations were there, but well, this project actually took us by surprise, whereby we didn't actually implement a lot of the mitigations as it was zoned out on the paper. Now, this is where now as a project manager, you're not doing that exercise only to manage the psychological point, but you're also doing that to also add value to the business of the company by giving them the clear lessons learned from the people that were in the field. This can give you a better view of how actually the plan from the strategical point from the PMO office actually got to be executed by the team itself. And then you can get to check if it's live enough or it needs to be revised and things of that nature, whereby you can now start to improve your team. That is very crucial in that point. And by doing so, you will avoid having to manage the psychology of what to do next, but you're going to give them also the conclusion of that the project has ended and they've got something that they learned. Thank you for staying tuned, and I hope this has been beneficial for you. I had to emphasize the points so that we can actually get to understand it from the field zone, not to make it like a theory and not see it as live. I want you to be able to understand the concepts as lively as possible. Thank you for staying tuned. Don't forget to subscribe and share. Thank you.